Chair of Parks and members of the Budget Committee and our finance staff and County Administrator Schmidt. My name is Sue Hildick, and I have the pleasure of serving as Director of Public and Government Affairs for the past 22 months. It's almost 2 years. So thank you for the opportunity to share deeper about the county's communication, community engagement, and government relations team. I'm happy to have Kelly Lute with me. She's our Administrative Services Manager. And on Zoom, we have Chris Lyons, who's our Director of Government Affairs, Tonya Halowetsky, who's our Deputy Director, and Kimberly Dinwiddie, who is our PIO. And Kimberly is just at her 1-year anniversary, first employee I ever hired over Zoom, and what an asset to the county. We're very happy to have her. So we represent a team of 22 people who carry out our mission, which is to provide timely and reliable information, equitable public engagement, strategy, and advocacy services to the people of Clackamas County, their Board of County Commissioners, other countywide elected officials, so that we can mutually thrive, build connection and trust with the government, and impact the future of their community. For this year, the reality is that we have been first responders as part of the disaster response, and that's what this first slide shows, pictures you know very well of the challenges we've had. We've been part of the 24/7 on-call team in order to get information to the public as quickly as possible. For the majority of the public, getting reliable and timely information was the major need that they had from the county during these events, and that's the work that we do. We hope public trust has grown in the past year, and you will see from the next slide, which has some of our accomplishments, that we do see signs that the connection with our residents has deepened in several ways. I'm just going to point out a few things. First of all, in many ways, the pandemic increased access and new opportunities to hear from our residents. The BCC meetings became virtual, basically overnight, and at times we saw attendance rates multiply by factors of 4 and 5. We've conducted regular listening sessions and town halls. We've moderated those meetings so that the user experience from the public has been very easy. And we've worked with facilities to do things like retool this room so that we could have excellent Zoom meetings and audiences. Our communications channels grew substantially. Our social media platform visitors are up 130%. And that's across 5 platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Nextdoor. Nextdoor is our largest platform with 120,000 followers. Our website visits increased 95%, and you'll see there's an error on this slide. It says 64%, but we underestimated it. And that traffic was driven by events and also smart marketing, like the COVID quiz, which we aimed at 20 to 29-year-olds that had over 6,000 people complete it, and our recent very direct mantra, get your shot, wear your mask, keep your distance. We're very proud of the fact that we have double the number of followers on our Facebook and our Facebook channel primarily than our sister county in Washington, so just a little friendly competition. We're proud of our platforms and our channels. We have new leadership in PGA and big shoes to fill, as Gary Schmidt really laid a lot of the foundation for our work, but we have a completely revamped MFR plan, and we restructured our department just a few days before the very first COVID case was diagnosed in Lake Oswego. And so it's been a challenging year to build a new structure at the same time we've been in response mode, but I think we've managed to accomplish that. Most of our publications have been refreshed this year, and I hope several of you saw this in your mailbox. We're very proud to have moved this from a newspaper to a magazine, and getting good feedback on that. The county's intranet site has been revamped, and that's a really important connection tool for every county employee. That's our internal website. We call all of this PGA 2.0. Still very much a work in progress. The emergencies have slowed it down just a bit, but we'll be picking up the pace again in the year ahead. We've also combined community engagement with government relations under Chris Lyons. He now leads those pieces for us. We're meeting quarterly with our hamlets and facilitating regular presentations to the board. We're helping the BCC set policy priorities in new ways, such as our values statement in transportation that we think might become a model for other issues. And we are supporting the growth of the Clackamas caucus, our legislative leadership, who have really been great champions for the strategic investments the county needs. We're currently advocating for over $153 million in federal and state funds for county projects, with an additional $600 to $700 million for I-205. And there's a note here. While we do the advocating, our departments really do the work to elevate the needs across the county and the projects, and then we try to match those with the opportunities from the state and federal level. It takes a tremendous amount of collective effort, and we've certainly never seen a lift before like we're seeing this year, because there are a lot of federal recovery dollars out there that can come our way and help build Clackamas County. If we go to slide 3, you'll see some pretty tangible results on our measures. The first one I want to mention is the initiation and oversight of the report from the Coalition of Communities of Color. That began in PGA, and we financed the first piece because the Office of Equity and Inclusion didn't exist yet, but now we're thrilled that it does, and we've turned it over to Martine and her team to take to the next step. But we started it in PGA because the work is critical to our communications efforts. We need to center the public, all of the public who reside, work, or pass through Clackamas County in our communications. So we're constantly trying to improve access to our website, as another example with plain language, and also translate as much as we can, especially into Spanish, Russian, and some Vietnamese. We will see how our state policy objectives come out very soon. You'll see our measure there. The legislature's still meeting, but by July we'll know where we stand. If we go to slide 4, where you see program profiles, part of what you'll see here is that also under PGA is our cable operation, our cable franchises. And you'll see that 22% in restricted funds, which are PEG dollars. PEG stands for Public Education and Government Access Funds. And we have 6 cable franchises in the county that we support. You'll also see 9% restricted under government relations, and those are funds that we use to support the Willamette Falls locks, the administrative portion of helping the locks advance, and that is also a major piece of our legislative agenda. Can we move to slide 5? So slide 5 shows on the revenue side that major revenue comes to us through those cable franchise fees, and we are anticipating an increase in the coming fiscal year of 2.2%, or about $39,000, which is a bit of a turnaround. It had been falling, and now it's climbing. And it's also in that bucket are salary reimbursements from other departments. We have several of the larger departments in the county who have funded FTE and PGA to work specifically on their needs, and that's a great partnership. On the expense side, again, like most departments, it's largely personnel. We have not added personnel in the last 22 months, although we have streamlined management in the department. If we look at slide 6, we'll see a slight increase of about 15% in both revenue and expense in our proposed budget. The major outlier number on this chart is in special payments, which reflects expense for PEG and locks, which we talked about, and a move to a different part of our chart. We did take a major budget cut last year of about 12%, and that meant reducing our publications of the magazine from 4 issues down to 2, but we feel like it's much more impactful and is getting greater readership, so we're okay with that. Most of the increases you'll see in our budget are really roll-up costs for staff, and then a reclassification of our federal advocacy contract, the Summit contract, which we've had for a long time, was moved in some of the new work that finance has done, and that's why it's showing up there as an outlier. Slide 7 shows a 23% increase in general fund. Again, 62,000 of that represents personnel cost roll-ups, and 110 represents that Summit contract, which was moved from non-D to PGA in this year's budget. This is not a new contract, but the annual payment on a long-term contract. Okay, and so that leaves us with significant future issues. And while this looks light, it shouldn't be interpreted as light. There's a growing demand for increased community engagement across our services and across most of our departments. An example is the Metro Bond, which comes with a pretty hefty criteria around continuing to engage the community about how those dollars are to be spent. We're seeing that across the departments, and PGA is the partner with those departments to help make that community engagement happen. So that has a heavy impact on us. I will also say government relations has exploded this year, and our commissioners know that because they've been very busy making the case with both federal and state policymakers. And I don't remember a time in my over 25 years in government relations where we've had so much activity at the federal, state, and local level all at once. To have federal and state earmarks going on at the same time is a pretty crazy situation. And so I would just say we have very good government relations staff at the county, and we're very grateful to them, but they are super stretched trying to follow federal and state money trails at this time, and would certainly hope that a lot of the $153 million we're advocating for ends up here. The last slide is a picture of our fantastic team, which represent many hundreds of years of communications, government relations expertise, knowledge, and experience. They amplify the good work going on across the county, and it's a true pleasure to work alongside you. Our work is to help the commission and all of our partner departments build public trust through good government, which is one of the BCC's top priorities, and we serve every part of the government. In our plans ahead, we are striving to complete our Clackamas County Identity Project, which is focused on clarifying our DNA. You heard earlier today that we have 5 of the fastest growing cities right here in Clackamas County. The times are changing here, and we really need to understand who's living here now and what their stories are, what they expect from the county, and how we can meet those needs. So that's the story we're going to try to tell with the Identity Project. We're elevating community engagement in terms of our knowledge around equity and inclusion, and that work is really done in partnership with the Office of Equity and Inclusion and Martine, but it's going to involve adopting standards for community engagement, training every department in those standards, and making sure that we are conducting truly inclusive community engagement across the county. We need to tend our channels. Our channels have grown significantly, and that means they have to constantly be fed with new content and good information, good reliable information. We will continue to do that, and we hope to add some new channels, like finally an HD channel for the county, which many have been working on for a long time, and we think it's within sight, right, Kelly? And more strategic use of our cable channel. We'd really like our cable channel to be telling our story on a more intentional basis. We hope to strengthen internal county communications, to grow capacity around our local and regional government relationships, and additional professional development for our staff, because as you can imagine, the communications field is changing rapidly. So in order to keep this asset that you have really strong and robust, we need to constantly be training and understanding the tools that the community is using. You will see that many of our performance measures in our presentation are under development, and that's because we have a new MFR plan, and we're trying to figure out how to measure those. But one of the things that we regularly do is measure impact based on public opinion, and we take community surveys every other year, and the Commission's very involved in that. Recently, we've been engaged in an unscientific survey of the community on how best to spend the federal recovery funds, and the Commission will receive a report on that survey next week, June 1st. But I would like to share today one preliminary data point that came back to us, which I think will bring a smile to all of your faces. In the English version, and we did this in English, Spanish, and Russian, we had 3,500 respondents so far, and it's still underway. And we asked respondents for their level of agreement on statements regarding the county's responses to the 3 recent emergencies being strong. Combining the answers of strongly agree and somewhat agree, our public thinks that Clackamas's wildfire response was strong, 83%. Clackamas's COVID-19 response was strong, 71%. And Clackamas's ice storm response was strong, 70%. We feel like those are really good numbers, and want to just say that that's an unscientific measurement of our collective work over the last very challenging year. So we're proud to be a key part of the county's response efforts and the future efforts, and we serve every member of our public with the spirit values that the county has adopted. We really want to thank the finance staff, particularly Sandra and her team and Elizabeth, for all the work they've done to help understand PGA, which is a little bit different than others, and want to thank Gary for his unending support of this work. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Good to have both of you here today and the folks that are on Zoom. One of the things I like about our budget process is that it gives us all, and including the listening audience, the opportunity to find out more in depth about what our various departments within the county do. I mean, some of the things are like, wow, I had no idea that's where that came from, or what's bigger than what I thought, or, whatever. So I appreciate that we have those opportunities for that. One of the things I noticed, though, is you held up that magazine. Yeah, I don't recall getting it, and I would love to get one. So I'd like for you to mention, for both myself and our listening audience, I mean, I recall in my mailbox, I receive a newsletter, which I think right now is every other month. It looks like maybe you're going back to a monthly again. But that's the only document I recall receiving. So
Yeah, I remember getting that.
Did you get that?
Yeah, and it was not the newsprint version that it used to be.
No, the newspaper version came out 4 times last year.
yeah, every 3
quarterly.
months, okay.
Yeah, this is now twice, so we've had 2 issues of it, and that's what we have planned for the year. And if you didn't get it, we'll make sure that you do. I'm curious if any others of you didn't get it.
I liked
received
it, I'd have to say.
Yeah,
I read
yeah,
it.
and so, like for the listening audience and for those of us in the room too, if we don't get it, do we need to go sign up somewhere, or how does that work? Because it looks like it would be a great
Yep.
magazine for us to have knowledge of. Yeah, Kelly.
I'm Kelly. Just contact our office, and we'll make sure you get copies, but I'll check with our team to find out. Do you live in Clackamas County?
I'm sorry, what?
You live in Clackamas County, correct?
yeah.
So we're everybody that lives in the county is supposed to get it, so
Yeah,
we
that's
need
what
to
I-
know.
what I
And
figured.
if you know people that haven't got it, please have them contact us, and we will revisit our lists. Yep,
Okay,
but we have lots of
good.
copies in our
I wanna be
office
sure I
right now.
get
Yeah,
one.
we'll make sure you get one today, but we do work with the mail house
I
to make sure it
appreciate that.
goes to every household.
Yeah, it might be worth checking.
We'll check
Well, there have
it.
been a few postal problems too, I've read.
Just a few.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
could be,
couple.
who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Commissioner Smith,
Oh.
you're up.
Thank you. I've always appreciated the work of PGE because I'm kind of into communications and writing. And something that you mentioned to me struck a chord is, and I make this comment, it seems like we're entering into a new era of how we communicate. And that's probably a result of COVID and being shut up. And it seems shut in, is what I mean, not shut up. But, yeah, right. And so as you're thinking about this and as you present this, you have ideas and thoughts about how we would change moving forward. And I'm not asking you to say that today, but through the next year, as we talk about our communications and what we're doing. I mean, it seems like I'm doing a lot of that work. I don't mind, but the engagement with our federal and state
Yeah.
legislative partners is, oh my gosh, and Martha can attest to that too,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
huge, is huge.
Well,
I'm finding in my personal email, it's just off the charts. I can't keep up. I seriously cannot do what I do here for 10 to 12 hours a day or longer, and then go home and answer all that. It seems like the desire for information or the outreach to, anyway, the electeds is just right there, and people expect you just to answer and turn it around like that. And I'm finding that I need assistance beyond what the county offers. The county is not supposed to offer that assistance, and I'm sure the other commissioners probably feel that too. It's just been tremendous. So I would like to engage in conversations with you, over the next, no hurry with this, but our availability for our internet, for our Zoom, for broadband, all plays into this as equally well. And we won't probably go back to what we used to think was our modern communication models. I find that interesting. Go ahead.
Well, Chair Smith, I so appreciate that question, because I'm really hoping that as we move post-pandemic, we don't let go of what's worked. And doing Zoom meetings with the delegation instead of taking 4 or 5 days to go back there is one of the things that's worked pretty well. Also, making sure we still offer a Zoom option when we're meeting in person. That is going to continue to grow access. So there are some things we've learned that we need to hang on to. But then I think there are also ways we can kind of group some of our outreach so that it's not constant one-on-ones, but we can do more events, I would say, to bring people together around key pieces of information than trying to brief them one-on-one. You're not alone in struggling to keep up. It's really been wild this year, and so we will be thinking strategically about that, and we'd love to be in conversation.
Oh, yeah, and I look forward to that, and I look forward to all your innovation and communications and technology and with TS and da-da-da-da-da. We're living in really exciting times, I think. Yes, very much so, and thank you for your presentation.
You bet.
Mr. Feely?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned the cable revenues were going back up, and I remember we discussed a couple of years ago when they were going down because people were moving away from cable. Is that so the COVID and being home and people
That's what
going
we
back
think,
to it?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other lights or cards, thank you very much for your time today, and